7 straight losses, a player leaving the program, and a star guard getting benched. What exactly is going on with Tennessee women's basketball? Last night, Tennessee's SEC tournament run lasted exactly one game, a 76 to 64 loss to Alabama. But the bigger story isn't just the loss, it's everything happening around this program. Players leaving, questions about coaches' decisions, a locker room that suddenly looks very fractured, a star player that got benched, so on and so forth. But before we get into that, let's do our intros. This is Club Hoops basketball podcast. It's actually not called Club Hoops basketball. It's Club Hoops, a women's basketball podcast. Hosted by a father-daughter duo, a very cute father-daughter duo. I'm Natalie Franklin.
I'm Gregory Franklin.
Yes, the father-daughter duo that's going to dive into this. We did a an episode about Jania Barker getting suspended. And there are a couple, I don't think people, how do I want to say this? I feel like there was an underreaction to that.
Really?
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I feel like there was and my point I was making on that episode and why I felt it was important to talk about specifically with the program Tennessee, it's a powerhouse program with a legacy, right?
Yeah.
But it's the timing of the suspension that tells you a lot. It's not just a suspension. These are young ladies, students. They get suspended all the time, right? We talked about Mouse getting suspended at South Carolina earlier in the year. But to suspend a player so late in your regular season is odd. And it spoke more to program problems than just, this being a one-off.
Yeah. And
so now...
Wait, did they actually use the word suspension or did they call it something else?
I could look it up. Felt like they said suspension. I know people thought, maybe it could be academic.
Yeah.
We're in February.
Yeah.
The semester started, February 1st?
Yeah.
At the time she was suspended, it was February.
Yeah.
She didn't travel with the team. I don't know if they officially called it a suspension.
Because I don't recall them using that word. I mean, I think
But they definitely didn't say academic suspension.
No, it wasn't academic. No, they didn't say that. Yeah.
But I mean, what's in a name? As Shakespeare says. As my friend Bill Shakespeare says, what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. So whether or not you're calling it a suspension, didn't travel, it's all the same.
You've been on that Shakespeare thing for a minute. Okay. I don't know what's gotten into you, but okay, I'll go with it.
Thespian.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But like I said, spoke to bigger program issues going into tournament play. Now here we sit, and they're already out of the SEC tournament. I mean, it's crazy. And I believe, if I look at my notes, they've won 31 of the last 32 SEC tournaments and lost last night. So this is very abnormal for this program. Is basically
they haven't won the tournament. They've won in them. I mean, what do you?
I'm saying they've never been basically knocked out of the first round.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That's not what they do. That's
very
uncharacteristic of this program, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
We can talk about the game. Let's talk about the game against Alabama. Hats off to Alabama, but we probably won't be focusing on how well they played. Although I will say, off top, they did a great job scouting Tennessee's press. I think that's something I've been very complimentary of. Tennessee has a great press, and Alabama, I mean, they must have watched film. They must have had their practice team reenact everything because they broke that press with no problem.
Well, because, I mean, the reality of what Kim Caldwell was trying to bring is extremely fast tempo, aggressive full court defensive pressure, and then she has this rotation of 10 to 12 players. So yeah, you're right. Shout out to Alabama, because you have to be prepared for that. I mean, you really do. I mean, that's a pretty aggressive style of basketball that Kim has tried to implement since being at Tennessee. So yeah, they had to do some good work in practice to prepare for that game, Alabama.
Yeah. But I mean, on the Tennessee side, turnovers were kind of their story.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to win a game shooting 38% from the field goal. It just wasn't there. Like I said, with turnovers, they had 18. I mean, Alabama had 13, but it's just they just didn't play a great game. The coach Kim Caldwell after the game said she was surprised that they didn't really compete because they had good energy in the locker room. I just don't think. I think this season is a wrap, and it's been a wrap for a while. I don't think there's any way to salvage this team's play.
Yeah, I still say that there are things going on behind the scenes. It's not a talent issue.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a talent issue at all. With those players on that team, there's some undertones
Hmm.
somewhere somehow that's keeping the team from playing the way they need to play to win games consistently.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I know we had comments last time about we shouldn't be getting into rumor and propaganda and all that, but there's something going on with that team. There is
Yeah.
something going on.
There's something going off the court that's affecting on court play.
Absolutely.
And that's why, going back to Jania Barker, why that was such an important moment. Because it's like when you're this late in the season, you should be having a lot more unity, a lot more
Yep.
camaraderie. That's
Yep.
probably not how you pronounce it either, but
It is. It is.
a lot more energy and excitement going into March. They don't have that.
Yeah.
Uh, I think they just, and you spoke on consistently, and Kim said after the game that's their problem. They're not consistent. Now, why she said that, I kind of was like, okay, girl, because she was asked about benching Talaysia Cooper. Talaysia Cooper, just like Jeanette, one of their best players.
Mm.
She only played 12 minutes and had 4 points. Didn't play the fourth quarter, I believe. And when Coach Kim was asked about it, her response was basically she was trying to find rotations and groups that work,
Yeah.
and that with this group they're so inconsistent, or they're just not consistent enough, that she doesn't know which group works. That's concerning this late in the season.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
we're we're in
Absolutely.
tournament play, you're still trying to find combinations that work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Most
Now
folks,
I Go ahead.
most coaches do that the first part of the season. I
Right.
mean, we'll use LSU as an example. I
Mhm.
know we challenged them on the softness of their schedule, but what Kim Mulkey said, I am working through trying to get and find something that works, in
Yeah.
terms of what I'm going to put on the floor early in the season. Kim Mulkey's not trying to figure this out as we go into tournament play. So
Right.
that is a problem. I know some comments have been made that maybe some of the what we're looking at with Tennessee is a reflection of a new system and not necessarily dysfunction.
Mhm.
But evidence is pointing away from, players having a hard time with the new system.
Yeah, evidence is pointing away from you just not. And again, we can't talk new system when we're at the end of the season.
Can't.
If this
Yeah.
was like November, of
Can't.
course, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But and they actually did. There's a period where they were doing well. There was a period where they won 6 or 7 in a row, and they
Yep.
were gelling. As something happened. There's something that caused a fracture. Even when we do talk about Cooper, not only was she benched and played only 12 minutes, she wasn't even in the locker room. She got
Yeah.
sent straight to the bus. And when
Yep.
Kim was asked about that, her
Yep.
response was, "Oh, we wanted to give her some room to breathe or something."
Yep.
Just
Yep.
it wasn't a real answer.
Nope.
The way I interpret it, Cooper was probably really, really pissed that she only played 12 minutes. And
Yep.
she could be also upset with the way she played. Okay. But they had to get her out of there.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
like, you need to go cool off. And I think in those moments, when you are a star player and you know what you bring to a team and you get benched in tournament play, we've talked about this with Kim before. This isn't the time to punish a player or
Not
make
at
a
all.
point.
Not at all.
This is a one and done game.
Not
Now,
at
if you
all.
felt like she wasn't productive, although I don't know how you can see that in only 12 minutes, fine, but I just don't think you should be benching her.
No.
Um, I don't agree with that. And I think when we look at Cooper, there's some things been happening too. I remember they were playing Texas, I believe, and she might have blew a defensive assignment. I mean, it wasn't that big of, I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And Kim called a timeout and kind of got in her face and said, "That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. And then after that, Cooper turned up, but I just was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, that was kind of
Yeah.
weird."
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's she's been asking her to do things and she's not seeing it, so she's going to bench her. I personally don't think it's the time for that when you're trying to win a game
Yeah.
that's an elimination
Yeah.
game, but it just again speaks more to what is going on within the team, within the system. And I read that somebody saying it's not just Kim, it's all the coaches. Like, and Kim admitted it too. They got outplayed, they got outcoached. Like, she's not that oblivious to the problems that are going on.
Let me just talk about why this should be concerning. Should be very concerning. The Tennessee program that Pat Summitt built was based on discipline, accountability, team unity, and of course, championship expectations. Pat Summitt had the mindset of if we don't win a championship, we haven't had a good year.
Mhm.
We haven't had a good year. The Tennessee program, the brand of that program, okay, the importance of that program as a feeder school to the WNBA is now could potentially come under question.
Mhm.
Okay. Not, I'm not saying, I know it's just been one season. We've seen a lot, but this is why these events are important. We're not talking about a community college women's basketball team. Okay.
Right.
Fresno City College. I don't know. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Tennessee, where,
Right.
where a slight ripple in the water looks like a tidal wave because of what that program is and what it means to women's basketball. So I think you might be right. It was sort of underwhelming, the discussion we had last time. You know, folks tried to write it off as an academic problem, blah, 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 blah. And maybe that's why she was left behind. But if you look out broadly and look at the Tennessee program, these things don't happen there.
Yeah.
They don't
Right.
happen in that Tennessee program.
Right.
So
And it's obviously more than one player having some issues or some challenges. We can even talk about, I mean, sorry, I don't want to move on too fast. We're not really talking about the game in the way we usually talk
that's
about a
right.
game
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not a game to be talked about in that way. And like it, I think it more so speaks to like you just so eloquently discussed and outlined the state of affairs with the program. Like that's what most people are talking about. Not so much the game, it's the state of affairs. And we have to talk about the player that literally just dismissed herself, and that is Kaiya Wynn. Kaiya Wynn has been with Tennessee for 5 years. You know, she had some injuries. I think she only played 9 games this season. And she announced this week, Wednesday, that she was leaving the program.
Yep.
Now, if you're wondering why, she says it's, a lot of things other than senior night, but senior night was what pushed her over the edge. It's senior night. Her whole family was there. She had like grandma, mom, dad. She had a bunch of people there. And she got checked into the game with 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
15 seconds on a game they're already losing.
That's horrible.
It's disrespectful to a person in this day and age of NIL that's been loyal to the program for 5 years. Now, Kim, I get it. She just got there. This is only her second year. So maybe she can't connect with that. But I think all coaches know about senior night. Like that's not a new concept.
And I'm not going to put all that on her. There
Yeah,
anyone
you're
who's
right.
coached, women's basketball, even in high school when you had senior night, even in high
Yeah.
school, generally what happens is, there's this thing of, hey, we're gonna start the seniors, and this isn't doesn't have to go this way, but this has been the general format. We're gonna start the seniors. They're gonna get one run on offense, one run on defense. I'm gonna call timeout, take them all out. They'll get a standing ovation. Then we'll put in our regular starters, and then it's business as usual. That generally happens up front so you can get that out of the way and get to the business of the game. Whether Kim knew that or not, which I find it hard to believe that she hasn't been through a senior night at some level. There are assistant coaches who know this process. There's folks in the administration who know this process. Why it didn't happen, I don't know. I can't even speculate because it's really a no harm, no foul thing. I just don't know.
And also, if it doesn't go that way, they also get them in with like 5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes left in the game. You
Yeah,
get substantial minutes, is the point we're trying to make.
that's
You
right.
get your moment. You have your moment. 15 seconds is really disrespectful to anybody, anybody, whether you were there for 5 years or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But 15 seconds is disrespectful, and it speaks. And Kaiya being able to say, you know what, that's kind of my last straw. Good luck to everybody here. I will not even be supporting from the bench. And to me, she knows, and we all know it, but the team knows they weren't going to be doing that much in March. And
Yeah.
the proof was in the pudding when they lost against Alabama. Will they make the tournament? Probably, just off the strength of the Tennessee name. But they shouldn't make the tournament. They're not going to do well in the tournament. They're going to be a one and done team there too, in my personal opinion. And they'll probably be 25th seed. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, but and so Kaiya doesn't need to be around for that. You clearly don't value me enough to give me my little bit of moment. 2 minutes
Yeah.
left in the game, something. Why would I support this team or support this coaching staff? So I actually support her decision. Get up out of there.
And see, I see it. I see it where the same way you see it, but I see maybe because I'm that old guy, the boomer, whatever. If I'm that player, I'm thinking I've supported you for 5 years, and you can't support me. You supported me for 15 seconds. That's kind of what it boils
Right.
down to. I mean, if I'm
Right.
looking at the sort of be all end all to everything, I can't even defend why that would have happened that way. What it does do, and this is where I think Kim Caldwell needs some significant help, is understanding perception versus reality. You've created a perception that somehow, some way, there are things that you don't care about.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you thought, if I keep her out in the last 15 seconds, I know I'm not going to win, so I put her in. I don't know. But you've created a perception that's going to cause a lot of speculation, has caused a lot of speculation. And that's where she needs help, is understanding perception. Just like when she had the post game conference and she talked about with Janaea's suspension, not traveling, whatever you want to call it. This is the best game I've ever coached. You know,
Yeah.
again,
This is the
perception.
most fun I've had all
It's,
season.
it's the most fun I've had all season. Perception. Well, what was different this season? I mean, what was different this game? Well, Janiyah wasn't there. I
Yeah.
mean, and then she goes on to call her players lazy and some other things in prior, post game conferences. You have to understand that in this business, in the business of basketball, women's basketball, you're the head coach, major program like Tennessee, words have meaning. And once they're out there like that, folks will start speculating, start of guessing at whatever it may be. You're not going to come back and try to clean it up because you're the coach, you don't feel you need to. But this symbolic 15 seconds that Kaiya got to play after being there 5 years in this world of NIL. I could have been gone in 2 or 3. I'm supporting you. You can't support me. And all of that coming out like that, that's going to be hard to get by. And as I said before, when we talked about the Janiyah suspension, that locker room is paying attention. They're paying
Yeah.
attention. They know, wow, you treat her like this. What about me? And all this stuff. Also, too, from a recruiting standpoint, not just saying it disadvantages Tennessee, they're still a major program. They still have brand recognition. Players will want to go there just for the simple reason of it's Tennessee. And when I get there, I'll deal with what I need to deal with whatever I need to deal with when I get there. And if it's not good, I'll get back in the transfer portal. But it- I'm trying to find a way to defend the coach. I just can't get there.
I think
I can't get there.
Not to mention benching Cooper in a tournament game. I think that you're absolutely right. The optics, right? Whether or
Yeah,
not whether we know for sure what's happening, that the optics don't look great. And I think a lot of times with coaches, they do call out their players in the press. And yeah, we get that. That happens sometimes. But there has to be the balance of, okay, when do you as a coach take accountability? Like,
yeah,
yes, we can say the players need to do this, but then there has to be a turning point where you're like, I got to prepare the players better, or, I've got to find a way to motivate them. Something, you got to put yourself in it. I think Tennessee, their intentions probably were good, trying to, reinvigorate the program, da da da, when they fired, Kelly Harper. I'm not sure firing Kelly Harper was the best decision, because they've gone in the wrong direction since. The program has not been reinvigorated. It actually has been
Yeah.
in shambles, specifically this season. I'm interested to see what Kim's future with the program looks like. I'm not saying they're going to fire her next season or if she's going to resign. It's just I'm curious to see what the future looks like. So what about you?
Well, it's not the issue of whether it was right or wrong to fire Kelly. Was it right or wrong to hire Kim?
Right,
That
that's true
that's
too.
that's where I mean, two things can be true, right? That's where I'm
Mhm.
landing. You know,
Yeah,
I'm sure the Tennessee folks did their due diligence in checking out Kim and running her through whatever rigor they run, their interview candidates through to get to the point where they selected her. But
mhm,
it's hard because Tennessee is such a brand and strong program. They have
yeah,
facilities, they have great fans. They're a strong program, and I'm sure Tennessee needs a quote unquote strong coach, and that's who they thought they were getting.
yeah,
Okay, however, it's turning out that they may not have selected the right person.
yeah,
And I don't, it's interesting the administration probably wouldn't come out with anything. They'll probably let the season run its course. But there hasn't been any movement by the administration to try and right the ship. It seems
yeah,
like, Kim still has the green light. She still is doing what she's doing. But I also have to look at her assistants. Did she bring in the right assistants as well?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
for me, it all lands squarely on Kim's shoulders, but you have a bench of assistants, full of assistants over there, and they should be making some contribution to making sure things, go well and making sure that, at least you have a winning season.
right,
And none of that seems to be happening. It
yeah,
none and so the question for me, yeah, fire a coach, hire a coach, but is it the right coach you're hiring? I mean, clearly you
right,
have a reason for firing the coach, but are you hiring the right coach?
right. It's about fit, right? It sometimes it just really comes down to is this a right fit for that group, for that program, for this coach, and all the things. All right, before we wrap this up, I have a question for you, Daddy.
Yes.
Can Tennessee reset before the NCAA tournament play? They have some time before the brackets and all that's even announced, but do you think they can reset?
I don't. It's really hard. It's really hard to put the genie back in the bottle. It's somewhat impossible. Or as they might say in the South, once the barn door is open and the cows have been released, it's hard to get them back into the barn. We have a situation here, and again, we don't know 100% because we're not there. We don't have all the facts, but you have a situation here where it would appear that the coach and coaching staff have taken a position of, it's got to be this way or no way, or
Yeah,
this way or the highway. And the players, particularly Kaiya, has said, okay, then it's the highway.
yeah,
I'll just leave. And if it was the WNBA or the NBA or the pros, players work to get coaches fired. They
right.
start playing for them. They start talking to the media behind their back. I don't think that's going to happen in the case of Tennessee. In fact, I don't even think it matters in this case. I just think it's too late to try and put this team in a mindset of we can win it all.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
just otherwise why play in a tournament? If you don't go in there
Right.
thinking you can win it all, why play?
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
because I guarantee you that's the mindset of LSU. I guarantee you
Yeah.
that's the mindset of Texas. I
Hmm.
guarantee you that's the mindset of South Carolina,
Hmm. Hmm.
Vanderbilt. We can win it all. And I don't think those players can get in that mindset given the recent events and given what has occurred throughout the entire season.
Right. And so I don't sound redundant, I'm just going to simply say ditto.
You know?
Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Can Tennessee turn it around before the tournament play? Do you think there's still hope for this season? What do you think about Kim? Does she have a future with Tennessee or should she pack up that office? Let us know. Remember to hit the notification bell so you know when all our new episodes drop. But yeah, Tennessee, Audi, the
Yeah.
SEC tournament.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're in good company because USC is out of their tournament too. So
Yeah.
all the big programs, not all of them, just those two. But you know, USC injuries. Shout out to Juju. Oh, you know what? And quick shout out to Arizona State. I'm liking what they're doing over there. They're playing with a lot of heart and spirit, and they're a fun team to watch.
They're
They're
very
even
fun to watch.
yeah, and I like watching their celebration and their coach dancing with the team. That's the synergy. That is what we're looking for from Tennessee, right? Support from both sides, the coaches and the players.
Unity.
Huh.
Unity. We
Unity.
want the coaches out there.
Perfect time. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy all that basketball this weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, folks.